episode 155, IRONMAN Wisconsin with Emma Adriaens. Welcome to the Pursuit of the Perfect Race. I'm Coach Terry Wilson, and with each episode, I bring stories of athletes to you that share their experiences at races in order for you to learn how to have your perfect race. We will hear stories from athletes of all ages, abilities, and races of all distances. So regardless of where you fit in, there's something in it for you. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let the pursuit begin. Today I'm talking with Emma Adriaens about her recent race at IRONMAN Wisconsin that took place on September 9th of 2018. She had a time of 12 hours, 6 minutes, and 11 seconds. The temperature on race day was 49 and rose to 69, with the water temperature being wetsuit legal at 72 degrees. Welcome to the show, Emma. I look forward to hearing about your race at Wisconsin.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. So, what made you go to this race?
So I wanted to do IRONMAN Wisconsin because, one, I love IRONMAN Wisconsin. I did it back in 2015, and I was supposed to do it in 2016, but had to drop out of the race because I wound up needing hip surgery. So I went and got hip surgery instead of racing. So 2017, a year after surgery, I did Ironman Florida just to give myself a little bit more time for recovery purposes from the surgery. So this year was kind of redemption for having to do hip surgery instead of racing. Yeah.
And you've been in endurance sports for quite some time. You've done a few marathons now?
Yeah. So I've been doing the multi-sport scene since 2006 when I was a little 16-year-old. Something to do with my dad and just kind of have fun together. And then I got into endurance racing with him back in 2012 with Marine Corps Marathon. And ever since then, it just kind of took off, and I just wanted more and more. And what's more than a marathon but an Ironman?
Right. Wow. So whenever you started going into this race, what was your training like?
My training for this year was so much different than anything else I had done. I mean, last year, my training included relearning how to walk after hip surgery. And then, so after Ironman Florida, I took like a month off and then started training, like getting right back into the swing again, and including strength training, lifting heavy, so that I could optimize my explosive power and minimize risk of injury. And then it's just, I mean, every day you're doing something, swimming, biking, or running.
Right. Now, the hip surgery, what kind of hip surgery is this? Was this like hip replacement surgery?
Luckily, they didn't know how bad my hip injury was. Otherwise, hip replacement would have definitely been on the table. But I had a 2-centimeter labral tear and a cam and pincer impingement. So basically, the labrum had torn almost completely and had flipped inside the hip socket. And it was just like a bone-on-bone situation for a while. So they just went in there, pulled it out, sewed it back up, and had to anchor it to my hip because I didn't really have any cartilage to speak of. And then they just kind of drummed down my femur neck and my hip to make me nice and symmetrical on both sides.
That does not sound pleasant.
No, it was. I've done like more fun things, but it definitely got me back into the sport because I was having a lot of pain training and trying to race. There's definitely something wrong. But because of the way the labrum had flipped inside the hip socket, you couldn't see it on an MRI. So the surgeon was just like, yep, we'll get you in here, we'll fix you up. And I guess like halfway through the surgery, he came out of the surgery to talk to my husband and was like, hey, this is like way worse than we actually thought it was. So she's going to be in there for a little while longer. So a couple hours later, I popped back out and yeah, on my way to racing again, I guess you could say.
Wow. Now, before your surgery, what was your PR at the Ironman distance?
So I did so IRONMAN Wisconsin, it was like 14 hours and something minutes. But I was injured at that point with the labrum tear. So I was just kind of struggling along the whole time I was training and the whole time I was racing. But I just thought that those were my limits, and that's just the way it was. I didn't realize I was injured during that time, and there's any other potentials for me.
Wow, so how did you even find out that you had this injury?
Well, like most athletes, I came at it with a heavily regulated routine of not addressing it. If I don't think about it and I don't tell anybody about it, I don't have to deal with it, which obviously is not the right attitude to take. And it was actually my massage therapist that was like, girl, I can't do anything for you. Because what had happened is the hip muscles around my hip, obviously, had tightened up so much that they were pulling my spine out of placement. And so it was causing my back to spasm a lot. She was like, girl, I can't do anything for you. You got to go get this taken care of. So she forced me in to go get it looked at. And I ended up at Summit Orthopedics, for anyone in Minnesota. They're amazing. And they took really good care of me. And I think like 3 or 4 different surgeons looked at the MRIs, and they all came to the same conclusion and got me into the surgeon that I ended up working with.
Wow. So all because you went to a massage therapist, and then she probably recognized that something wasn't right because she deals with touching the bodies all day, literally, and she realized something wasn't right.
Yep. She deals with a lot of endurance athletes, a lot of triathletes. So she was like, girl, you got to get in here. You got to get this taken care of. This isn't going to go away for you. And she was absolutely right.
Wow. So going into IRONMAN Wisconsin this year, what was your training like on a day-to-day basis and a week-to-week basis?
So on a week-to-week basis, I would train anywhere from probably 15 to 20, 25 hours a week. Basically, you get up, go to work, come home, train, eat, go to bed. So I always would start the week off like Sunday, if we're saying that's the start of the week, usually with a huge ride, anywhere from a 2-hour ride at the beginning of the season, so like April, May timeframe, and then I'd work up to like a 6-hour ride by, August. So Sundays are always my big ride days. And then throughout the week, I'd kind of just be building up the run volume and continuously biking, of course, throughout the week. And then swimming on top of that as well. I'm not a very good swimmer though. So I would mix in some private swim lessons as well to try to improve my technique.
Okay. So what kind of training plan are you using?
I have a coach, and he has me on Training Peaks, and he just tells me what to do.
Nice. Who's your coach?
Andy Schiesel, the same coach as Joe, my husband.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that you're working with the same coach.
Oh, yeah. We're a package deal.
Wow. So what was your longest swim, bike, and runs going into this race?
My longest swim going into this race was probably like 2.5 miles. And then my longest run going into the race was 18 miles. And my longest bike going into the race was like 115, 120, something like that.
Okay. Were you doing a lot of bricks in training?
Oh yeah, always a brick. If I have a bike and a run on the same day, I'll always follow the run by the bike, or follow the bike with the run. There we go.
Yes. Now, as intensity and volume increases, how are you mitigating the risk of being injured again?
So that's where the strength training came in with the off season, and I would continue it throughout the summer as well until the training volume for Ironman just kind of took up all my time, and there really wasn't any other time in the day. And I always do core work though, because I found out earlier this season as well that I totally forgot to tell you before. I have 2 bulging discs in my back and a bone spur.
Really?
That rubs on one of the sensory neurons. So if I don't do my abs and my core work, then when I'm sitting in aero, my spine will start to collapse, and it'll cause that neuron to rub on the neuron to rub on the bone spur. And then I can't feel my legs very well.
Wow.
So I always do core work all the time.
Wow.
Never stop.
Now, whenever you think about your nutrition plan that you're using on your long bike rides and runs, what does this look like?
So my nutrition for my long bikes consisted of utilizing the GU Roctane, the Summit Tea flavor. I love it because it's got the right calories that I need. It's got like 250 calories per 16-ounce bottle. And so I would do 2 of those, and I'd bring a third little baggie of GU Roctane just in case I needed it. So I'd have 2 bottles, and I would have 6 Stroop waffles.
Wow, that's a lot of food.
At the ready. Yeah, so I'd put 3 Stroops in my bento box, and I'd carry another 3 on my back. But I need a lot of snacks. Yeah, so like we had talked about before, I do everything time-based. So I don't really worry about the miles or anything or the speed. I just worry about what my time is. So every 10 minutes, I'll take a sip of my Roctane. Every 30 minutes, I have half a Stroop waffle. And then every hour or so, I'll take a shot of base salt, because I always carry that with me, and I'll use that for both biking and running, because it's absolutely amazing.
Wow.
And I thoroughly recommend it.
Now, with your training, did you have specific workouts that you wanted to complete in training that would give you the confidence to go into this race knowing that you're prepared?
Yep. So the workouts that I really, really felt would give me a huge confidence boost going into the race were going to be the huge weeks where it was a massive bike to start, a massive run in the middle of the week, and then another massive bike to follow. So I had one week where it started with a 5-hour bike. Then I had my 18-mile run on a Thursday, and then I followed it up on the following Sunday with a 6-hour bike and a 7-mile run off the bike.
Wow, that's a big week.
Yeah. Go big or go home.
Yeah. Now, with all this training, did you get injured at all?
Nope.
Did you miss any training?
No, I am definitely one of those very coachable people that it will eat at my soul if I miss any training whatsoever. So unless I was throwing up or not able to leave the house for other bathroom necessity reasons, then I would definitely push through and make sure I got all my training in.
Okay.
No.
Now, were there any days where you just mentally didn't really want to train?
Oh, for sure. I feel like every athlete is going to have those, but that's where the discipline comes in. So discipline is obviously doing what you know you have to do, even if you don't want to do it. So yeah, there's days where I would probably be crying on the bike because I was just so tired and I just wanted to go home, but that bike ride's not going to bike itself, especially on those hills in Dane County.
Right. Were there any long bike rides where you did the ugly crawl on the bike when nobody was around?
Oh, for sure.
How do you get past those? And coming off of a hard bike ride that you just had an emotional breakdown during the ride, going on to your next 100-plus mile ride, how do you have the mentality to go into that ride going, oh my gosh, here we go again?
Well, in all honesty, after hip surgery, my attitude has completely shifted towards training. Yes, I'll have my mental breakdowns like everybody will, but I still feel so lucky just that my body is able to do this. Like, my body's able to take me through these 100-mile rides and these super long runs, and I'm able to do it week after week after week. And so I'm just thankful to be out there, because I know what it feels like to literally not be able to walk on your own, put your own pants on, and put your own socks on. So I'm just glad I can put my pants and my socks on by myself and ride my bike.
Wow. I mean, that had to be so hard to go through emotionally whenever you were going through your recovery with the hip surgery and all that, because you had to rely on Joe to pretty much do everything for you.
Yes. That kid is an absolute saint. I struck gold when he asked me to marry him. I definitely came out on top. But yeah, it was definitely more emotionally draining than doing an Ironman triathlon or training for an Ironman triathlon. I would rather do Ironman every single day for a month than ever go through hip surgery again.
Because of the emotional toll that it took, because you couldn't do anything on your own and had to rely on everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, you walk into surgery a fully functioning, independent person, and then you wake up from surgery, you can't walk, you can't put your own pants on, you can't do anything for yourself. Getting out of the chair I was sitting in was difficult and took a team of people to get me out of. So you don't realize how necessary your independence is, especially as an athlete, until you don't have it.
Wow. So going into this race, when you're not training, racing, or recovering and getting massages or spending time with Joe, what are you doing?
Is there anything else to do? I honestly, training and recovery, and that's really it. So I'm very fortunate that my family also are athletes. My entire family is triathletes. My mom, my dad, and my little sister. So they all get it. They understand what it takes. So family time always kind of revolved around training. So my parents would come and swim with me, and my sister would come and swim with me, and they would race me. Of course, they only had to do 50s, and I was doing like 100 sprints, but still, they were there in the pool with me, and that's really kind of how we got our time in, was at races or during training. They would just kind of come with. We had one day where they wanted to have like a dinner at my grandparents', and my grandparents fortunately have a pool, but the entire family just kind of like gathered around the pool because I had to do a swim, and they just like counted my laps for me, and we just made it like this whole like family gathering event, so I could still train and get ready for my race, but still like be able to spend that quality time with them.
Wow. So what do you do for work?
So I am a biomedical engineer.
A what?
And a biomedical engineer.
What does this mean?
So you know how there's like mechanical engineers?
Yes.
So I'm kind of like that, but for the human body. So I help design and update medical devices. Specifically right now, I support our embolic products. So anything that is used to stop up blood flow for stuff like tumors, aneurysms, hemorrhages. You can use our products to just basically suffocate a tumor, fill a hole, that kind of stuff.
Wow. That's like crazy. I have yet to interview anybody that does anything remotely like that.
Well, you interviewed Joe. He does that.
Well, he didn't say he was a biomechanical engineer.
Oh, yeah. We work at the same company.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Now, how big of an issue is balancing life, work, and training for you? I know Joe understands it, your family understands it, but how big of an issue is balancing all this for you?
I have a very lucky work situation. I'm incredibly blessed in my whole life. My boss is very supportive of my endurance racing. He's kind of like, do whatever you got to do. If you got to work at home, like get your training in, get the work done, whatever you got to do, do what you have to do, basically. So I really don't have troubles fitting it all in because I don't have that requirement of being within the building. So I'm able to work from home when I need to. Joe actually got me a desk for my bike, so I can pull this desk over my bike as I'm doing spins and stuff, and I can keep working and biking at the same time. So I can get like recovery rides in and keep working. So 2 birds, 1 stone.
Wow. Now, going into the taper for this race, what did this look like for you?
Oh, taper is like the best and the worst of times. So Ironman Wisconsin was really the only race I tapered for at all this year. Every other race, I was kind of training right up until the day of the race. One race, I had a 5-hour ride and like a 6-mile run off the bike. And then I literally got up within a couple, like 8 hours or so and went and raced the next day. But this for Ironman Madison, Wisconsin, I like the starting 3 weeks out, it would start to kind of be less time, but more intensity. So for my bikes, instead of riding at like 140 watts for 45 minutes, it was like 180 or 190 watts for like 20 minutes and do repeats of those. For my runs, it was lower volume, but higher intensity. So I would be doing kind of speed work for a minute or 2 minutes instead of a sustained pace for an hour 30. Okay. And then, swimming was just doing some sprints, just kind of getting everything woken up and ready to rip.
Nice. Now, I know y'all live in Minnesota. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. Y'all live in Minnesota, and this is obviously in Madison, Wisconsin, so y'all aren't too far away. When did y'all start leaving I want to say Michigan, but it's Minnesota. When did y'all leave Minnesota to head over to Wisconsin for the race?
We left the Wednesday before the race.
Okay. Did y'all get like an Airbnb, a hotel? What does this look like?
We did you know what? I lied. We didn't do Wednesday. We did Thursday. Either way, we did a hotel. So we stayed at the Concourse Hotel because it's right downtown and it's within walking distance. And through traveling around the country and racing, we've really figured out that being able to walk to and from the start line and the finish line is definitely a must, especially for an Ironman race, because that last hour of the race, 11 to midnight, is the best time ever. It's a huge party. Mike Riley's usually there if he's announcing. You get to meet him. And it's just so incredibly inspiring and touching to be able to see those athletes come across the line that have been out there all day. So that's why we stay downtown.
Nice. So whenever y'all actually get there, how is the check-in process at the village here?
Oh, it's great. We tried to check in on Thursday because I just wanted to get it out of the way with. And we were 5 minutes late, so we missed it. Shouldn't have stopped at that gas station. But we ended up just checking in the next morning. But they're pretty quick. Of course, there gets to be a huge line no matter what time you go. So went in the morning and got through rather quickly. The volunteers at Wisconsin are absolutely amazing. I can't imagine a better race with better volunteers. They're so awesome. They treat you really well and they get you through really efficiently.
Nice. So whenever you started getting everything, did you get a bracelet to give the volunteer?
Oh yeah, I think I gave it to the volunteer that gave me my swim cap.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So whenever you start thinking about lining up all of your bags the day before the race and checking your bike in, what does all this process look like for you?
So it's all kind of just it's all become routine now. So I set out my run bag and I'll set out the bike bag and then I'll put everything I need on top of it and take a picture of it and when I'm freaking out, right before the race to see if if I forgot anything. But I put my shoes out and I put my socks in my shoes and flip them inside out, and then have my edge there, my Garmin edge, and I think my helmet and my sunglasses for my bike, and that's really it. And then for the run, just my shoes, my visor, and my race belt, and my Garmin watch.
So you're not using special needs?
I put a special needs out for my bike. I put like another Roctane bottle out there, but I didn't end up using it. Very lean.
So you just have a throwaway bottle in that then, or do you get that back?
No, I do a throwaway bottle.
Okay. Now, whenever you go and check your bike in, walk me through this process. It's a little bit unique here at Wisconsin because of the layout of the transition area versus other races, right?
Yes, you are in a huge parking lot and a parking structure. So right. You got, yep.
It's more like a garage type situation, right?
An open garage, I would say. Because they've got like this walkway over the parking lot so like people can see you down there. But you're open to the air, but you are at like the top of the garage. So you do have to like run up the helix from the lake, and you do have to bike down the helix to get to the bike course. So yeah, for check-in, I just kind of roll my bike on over. You have to like climb down some stairs. You have to go into the special bike entrance with the volunteers, and you drop your bike off for like a hot second so they can take a picture of it. Make sure you have like your stickers in the right spot, and then you roll your bike over to your rack, and a volunteer usually helps you rack up and take a picture of yourself and your bike, and then you're on your way.
Nice. And you're using the nice hot pink QR?
Yes, I am. She is bright. I love it. Absolutely love it. It's such a smooth ride. The only thing I have had issues with it is dropping my chain at a couple races. Never drop my chain in training, but I'll drop it at pretty much every race.
Did you drop it at Wisconsin?
I did, but I put in a chain stay, little piece of metal there, so when it dropped, it didn't get stuck between my frame and my crank. So I just like hopped off, threw the chain back on. It took probably a total of 30 seconds.
Wow.
So, but yes, I love this bike. Recommend it to anybody. She's so pretty.
Now, if you think of the last workout you did before the race, what was this like? Did you and Joe go out for a nice little easy run or an easy swim? What was that like?
No, I didn't swim at all when I got to Madison. The first swim I did was during the race. So we like showed up on Thursday, and I had done my workouts in the morning at home before we went on the road trip. Friday was a rest day, and then Saturday I did like a half hour, 20-minute bike ride just to kind of make sure all the gears were still working, my chain was still working. And then I did like a little 30-minute run. So just kind of making sure everything still felt good. I did like a steady state with like a set of 3 30-second pickups so like I raced Ironman with a goal of like 9-minute to 9 45-minute miles. And then for the warm up that I did the day before, I was running at like 7-minute miles for like 30 seconds.
Oh, wow. So if you think of your training, was a lot of your training pace-based on the 9 to 9:45 for your long runs, or were you going a little bit lower than that, higher than that? What does that look like?
So I was doing a little bit lower than that until probably halfway through the season, and then I switched it as I got over about 13-mile runs. Then it switched from like an 8-minute mile, 30-minute mile to 9-minute mile for whatever duration my coach was having me do. So I never ran the full like 18 miles. I didn't run the whole thing at my race pace. I did like a warm up at like 10-minute miles, for 2 miles, and then I would do my race pace 9-minute miles or so for like 90 minutes, and then I'd go back down to like 10-minute miles.
Oh, wow.
So I never fully run at race pace for the entire run until I get to a race.
Wow. Okay. Now, whenever you think about your nutrition the day before the race, are you going to get in a certain meal or lay out your nutrition a certain way before a full Ironman? What is this like for you? Hey, everybody. I just want to say thank you for listening to the podcast, and I just want to let you know that I've enjoyed having so many people on this show, and I couldn't really do it without your support. Thank you so much for tuning in, listening, and being a part of what I'm doing. If you would, take a few moments to leave me a review over on iTunes. It would help me out tremendously, and enjoy the show. Are you going to get in a certain meal or lay out your nutrition a certain way before a full Ironman? What is this like for you?
For me, what did I do? Joel makes all my food, so I just kind of eat what he gives me. But it's, very carb based, very little fiber, not very much fruit, some vegetables, but not really anything fibrous. I'm a vegan.
Really?
So yes.
You are the second vegan I've had on here.
We're infiltrating the tri community. We're all coming in. No. I do it for training purposes.
Really?
Yeah, not for any moral reasons, because animals are delicious. But I
know Leslie's going to be listening to this, and that's going to be so funny. I know it is. I'm going to get a text from her later, I'm sure.
But yeah, I got into nutrition. Joe really got into nutrition with me after my hip surgery, when I couldn't control anything except what was going into my mouth. So after that, my coach, during the summer, so a couple months after hip surgery, he suggested that I try going vegan. Because you potentially can recover faster because you aren't having the enzymes within your body that are required to break down animal products. So that enzyme causes inflammation. And so when you don't have that, you can recover faster, is the theory. And it's been working for me brilliantly.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I only eat like chickpeas, black beans, all the vegetables, a lot of hummus, except before a race. So yeah, just some chickpeas, sweet potatoes. Yeah.
Are you eating out alcohol as well?
Yeah, not because like any real reason, except I don't want to lose any training because I'm hungover. So I just, with all the training that we do, we don't really have time to drink or really have the desire to drink because we're getting older and don't bounce back like we once did.
Right. Wow. So whenever you think about what time you went to bed the night before the race, what time did you try to get in bed?
I shut everything down at 8 p.m.
Wow.
So poor Joe is not tired, but I forced him to go to bed. So,
Man.
yeah.
And your alarm clock is set for what time?
I got up at 3:30 in the morning to get my breakfast in, which consisted of overnight oats. So the way that Joe makes it for me, it's steel cut oats, almond milk, almond butter, and some fruit.
Okay.
So I think it was like raspberries or something that day.
About how many calories do you think this is?
Oh, it's about, I think he told me it was anywhere between like 400 and 500 calories.
Okay.
It's pretty dense.
Right. And it's not a lot of food, but it's quality and really dense.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I promptly threw all of it up.
Really?
Yeah. Which was not ideal.
Why did you throw up?
I think it was just nerves. So like when I start to get nervous, like I feel like my chest is compressing, like something's sitting on it. My throat will contract, and I'll basically just expel it all. I'll just throw it up real quick, and then Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know. So then I had to substitute some stroop waffles to try to make up for the calories I just got rid of.
Man. So whenever you actually get ready for your race day morning ritual here, are you getting a shower to braid your hair? Put your teeth How does this look like?
So I usually do my hair the night before. So I'll do a set of 5 braids, and I'll just kind of like do 5 little braids and then kind of pull them all into one big braid in the back. Because I've got a lot of hair, I got to maintain the mane. So, and doing like multiple braids is like the only way I can like capture it all, and it doesn't like fall out, and it doesn't turn into a giant rat's nest.
Wow.
So that's the night before. So like race day morning, it's just kind of putting on my kit, eating my breakfast, hopefully not throwing it up, and then just kind of finalizing last minute nutrition stuff, like filling out my bottles for the Roctane that I'll put on my bike, grabbing my bike pump, collecting my support crew of my parents and Joe, and then off I go.
Okay. Now, whenever you get to transition, it's only like, what, a 10-minute walk away-ish. Whenever you get there, what all are you doing in transition before you actually leave transition to head to the swim?
So in transition, I start with getting my Garmin on there. I make sure that my nutrition is set up the way I want it to be. So I use a X-Lab torpedo bottle. So I'll fill that up, make sure that's good to go. I put my second Roctane bottle in the water bottle cage under my seat. I only use one water bottle cage. And then whatever else I need out there, I just get from the aid stations. And then I set up my stroop waffles. So before I get to transition, I cut them all in half and I put them in a Ziploc baggie. And then I take that Ziploc baggie and I kind of fold it in half with the stroop waffles in it, like open, and kind of just like, it's hard to explain verbally and not with you seeing my hand motions. But I just kind of open it up and like roll the bag open so that I can put it in my bento box and just kind of pick the stroop waffles out as I'm going. And then I make sure my base salt vial is in my bento box as well. And then I pump up my tires and then kind of just thank the bike for being such an awesome bike. And off I go to put my wetsuit on.
Nice. So whenever you actually leave transition to go put your wetsuit on and get down to the swim start to kind of get lined up for the rolling start here, being that they don't do the mass start anymore, what was your mindset at this point?
I always try to go into a race, especially my A race, kind of as it's just a giant, really well-organized training day. I try not to get in my own head too much, just really focus on the task at hand and kind of approach things one step at a time. So when it comes to like getting ready, like the bike is taken care of in transition. Now it's time to put the wetsuit on. I only focus on the swim. I don't worry about anything else that's going to happen that day. I have my race plan that my coach and I have discussed, and I just go and I execute each step of it. So I make sure to surround myself with my support crew. It's my parents and my husband, and they are just the most incredible and supportive people ever. I can't imagine not having them with me at all my races. I'm very fortunate that my parents come to every single race I do, no matter where it is. They always follow along, and I'm so thankful that they're willing to take time out of their lives to do that. But so I just kind of spend my time with them. I take my last goo for 100 calories and some caffeine, eat a little bit of a stroop waffle, and put my goggles on and get into the water.
Nice. So whenever you start getting in the water, how is this for you, being that this is your first time after your surgery?
So this is my second Ironman after surgery.
Time. Okay.
Yeah. So getting into the water this time, I was trying to weasel my way. Being super short, I can usually do whatever I want in a huge crowd because I can just duck under the elbows. But this time I couldn't do that. It was so packed. So I didn't end up getting up as far as I needed to just because there was no movement. We were all packed in like sardines into this corral. So I ended up a little bit farther back than I should have been. I'm not a great swimmer, but if I can get with the right pack of people, then I can usually hold my own. But this time I was definitely way farther back than I was supposed to be. And it definitely impacted my swim because I ended up being in a much more combative situation than I should have been just because I was passing people and climbing over people and just trying to navigate that whole situation and being in the water with 2,500 of your closest friends. Like, that's kind of difficult to do.
Right. Now, before the race even started, had you even paid really that close attention to the weather? Because we know it was going to rain on the event, but then the weather changed, and then it changed again. Were you looking at the weather that much?
I was keeping tabs on it loosely. I was aware of like what was happening, but I wasn't going to let it stress me out. Like, whatever it is, it is. Like, those are the elements. That's what you have to deal with. I've raced in rainy, horrible weather before. I've raced in, 4-foot swells before. So it is what it is, and you just have to race the race that day. You can only race who shows up. You can only race the elements you're given. And so there's really no point in stressing out over stuff that you can't control.
Wow. So the swim, walk me through the swim whenever you get in the water through the time you get out of the water.
I just try not to die, really. So I have not been blessed with any of the accoutrement that you are required to be a good swimmer. I am tiny. I am short. I have tiny arms. I have little hands. I have little feet. So I am not moving super quickly, and I've got very dense legs. So I sink like a rock. But basically what I did this time is I went in just focusing on the task at hand, just swimming from buoy to buoy, basically. Took a huge deep breath, like, yep, this is what we're doing. It's go time. It is time to perform. Here we go. So I am a born performer, and I always do better when I look at it as a performance than a race. So off I went.
Wow. Now, how was the water quality here?
It actually was really good. So they had like the horrible floodings, and I think it helped the quality of the water because the race director, I think, the day before at one of the athlete meetings was saying that they got their test back from the lake water, and it was actually cleaner than it had been in past years. So it was kind of crazy how bad the flooding situation was. And you heard about it like coming up to the race, but you never really understood it until you saw it. Like, the water was like over the rocks and over the path in some area. And it was just so crazy because there was like sections of the lake that, were a park at one point. So you're like, okay, try to avoid that part. But yeah, so I just kind of swam out to the buoy line and just stuck on the buoy so I didn't have to worry about any debris or anything.
Okay. Now, whenever you start getting ready to get out of the water, are you doing anything to start preparing to start running up the helix?
No, I literally don't even start thinking about anything until it's like I'm at that point. So I'm just focusing on the swim until my feet are, hitting the beach, and I am off to the next thing. And then I'm only focusing on that transition period. And then once I go get my bike, then I'm focused on what the bike brings.
Okay. Now, whenever you start thinking about your swim, did you hit the time that you wanted to hit?
No, I was like 10 minutes slower than I wanted to be. But considering how combative it was where I was, I'm just happy that I managed to not have like a mental breakdown and panic in the water. I didn't have to break out my panic plan, so.
Panic plan?
Yes. everybody should have a panic plan. I like to plan things. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yeah, so what is this panic plan that you have?
So whenever I start to freak out in the water, like this is the end, this is how I die, I execute my panic plan. So as every stroke I do, like I'll usually breathe bilaterally, but for the panic plan, I just breathe out on the right side, and I will tell myself I am calm, cool, and collected until I believe it. And then I go back to bilateral breathing.
Wow. I've never heard anybody actually have a designated panic plan and know how to. I mean, honestly, it's kind of like having a mental strategy of what to do if things go awry and you need to actually calm your nerves, calm your anxiety level back down.
Yeah, it's such a key part of racing. Things are not going to go as you plan, so you need to have a backup plan at all times.
Right. And I've heard of other people like just turning over to their back and doing the backstroke, but this sounds a lot more reasonable.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole point of the panic plan is to not stop moving forward. So all I have to do is get back to the beach. So the fastest way to do that is to not stop doing the front crawl. So I just switch to breathing onto one side until I can like calm myself down and like, yes, I can actually do this. I'm not dying. I'm going to be okay. I can do this.
Exactly. So whenever you get out of the water, how does T1 go for you? There's wetsuit strippers here. Do you take advantage of them?
Oh, for sure. That's like the best part of Ironman. That's why you pay the money, so someone will whip off your wetsuit for you. So, yeah, I love it. You just run at somebody and they take your wetsuit and all your stuff smooth off of you. Send you on your way. So I am like horrible at taking my own wetsuit off. I'm that person in transition with my feet stuck in the wetsuit and can't get them out. So I definitely used the wetsuit strippers. I left my cap and my goggles on. So my goggles on my forehead. So I didn't have to like carry anything extra. So just had the wetsuit stripped off, threw the wetsuit over my shoulder, and just ran up the helix at a quick but not sprinting pace because I got a lot of stuff to do that day. So
right now, whenever you get to the top of the helix, how was this experience for you going up the helix?
Oh, it's so fun. It's just lined with people. I really don't need much in life, just people telling me how awesome I am. And that's a whole helix full of it. So it was the first time I ever did it back in 2015. It was so bizarre because you're running up a helix to get to transition. This time I definitely probably took advantage of it a lot more. High-fiving people, engaging in the crowds, and just really enjoying the experience and taking advantage of the opportunity.
Wow. Now, whenever you get to your bike, you have to get on your bike and go down the other helix to get to the bike course. How was this experience for you?
It was different. So doing it one time before, I knew what to expect. I knew not to try to pass people. I knew to take it easy and just kind of spin down the helix, kind of let whatever happened was going to happen. Get on the bike path and try to get off as soon as possible.
Okay. So for your bike strategy, did you have an ideal power number that you wanted to hit, or a cadence number, or anything like this that you wanted to use to kind of attack the bike ride?
Yep. So my coach and I discussed that I was going to be targeting 140 watts. So on my Garmin Edge, I set it up that I can see the time and I can see my watts for 3 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, and average overall. So I was targeting 140 watts average that day. So I was just going to hit it at 140 watts the whole time and just ride her to the finish line.
Okay. So are you using 140? Is that a certain percentage of your FTP?
Yeah. So typically in training, I would ride up until like halfway through the summer. I was doing like 180 watts, 190 watts or so. My average for like a half Ironman was like 155 to 165. So this obviously is full Ironman, so you're not going to drop it down a little bit. So yeah. I don't know what it would have been a percentage of my FTP. I think my FTP is like 220 or something like that. So yeah, the goal was to be able to have a strong bike, but a fast marathon.
Now that makes sense. I feel like that's like everybody's goal. Now, whenever you think of your cadence, you're not able to see cadence on the main screen that you have. Are you using cadence at all?
Nope, not at all. I just go strictly by watts.
Okay. Now, whenever you get out to the lollipop, how was your 2 loops on the lollipop once you got there?
Oh, it is just the funnest ride you could ever even imagine. I love the technicality of it. I love the hills. I love the steep drops into the sharp turns. It's just so fun because you have to be able to like be willing to take the risks, but be smart enough to know when to hold back a little bit. And so being able to kind of juggle that is just an absolute blast. So my 2 lollipops went pretty well right up until mile 70. So coming out of the swim, I was 47th in my age group. I told you I'm a terrible swimmer. I managed to climb to like 7th in my age group. And then about mile 70, I was coming into an aid station and throwing a bottle, and I hit a crack in the road and just took myself out completely. So crashed right in front of this aid station and was promptly pounced upon by the volunteers, who were absolutely amazing. They helped me. They got me out of my bike shoes and off of the ground, made sure my bike was okay. And then after like 35 minutes of kind of arguing with them that I could indeed go on and I was going to, so give me my bike back, then I got back on the road and finished her out.
Wow. So I don't know if Joe actually talked to you after the race, but I had texted Joe during the race and I was like, hey, what's going on with Emma? And he told me that you had wrecked like later in the day after he found out.
Yes. Yeah, no, he didn't tell me that you talked to him, but I did force a volunteer to call him because I was like, he's going to be watching this on the tracker. My coach is going to be watching this on the tracker. I better tell him why I went from averaging 20, 21, 22 miles an hour to averaging 10 miles an hour.
Yeah, there's got to be a reason for this.
Yeah, so I was like, I should just tell them now so they don't have to, because I know my support crew, I know my coach, like, they're going to be speculating, they're going to be stressing out about this. I'll just tell them now. I'll let them know, like, yep, I crashed. Yes, I lost some skin. No, I don't think anything is broken. I can still pedal. Off we go. I wound up breaking a rib, but that's okay. They'll heal.
You did break a rib?
Yes.
At mile 70 on the bike run?
Yeah. But it's just like a little one. It's not like a punctured lung situation.
Wow. So it's a fast rib.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't even need it.
Yeah, it's just there for looks anyway.
Yeah.
Wow. So for the bike ride, were there a lot of flats that you saw, or how was the road quality here?
Oh my gosh. So they did all that road construction. And like the back half of the course, like by Stagecoach, where it's usually like the boneyard, it was beautiful. Smooth, gorgeous tar. So you just got cooking on those roads. You were able to go so fast. It was so fun. There wasn't a ton of flats that I saw, but I did see a couple of really, really bad crashes. A couple people getting pulled off on stretchers and into ambulances. Yeah.
Man, I know a guy on EMJ had a wreck.
Yes, he did. He broke his collarbone.
Really? I know that he ended up DNFing, but I didn't realize that he, broke a collarbone.
Yeah, he broke his collarbone. He did it around, mile 60, I think. He was out in Verona, and he ended up running into a girl and crashing. So he wasn't on, it wasn't like a steep drop and hairpin turn, and he crashed there. So I think he'll be okay.
Wow. Now, whenever you start getting to the later portions of the bike ride, miles 70, 80, 90, after your wreck, how was your headspace during these times? Because normally there's some times in here where people will struggle mentally.
Yeah. I was very fortunate that I never struggled mentally during this entire race. I think a lot of that has to do with coming back from hip surgery. Just being thankful that I can do this. I didn't have an issue mentally. Physically, I had a pretty bad road rash on my arm. So like right where I had to place my elbow into my pads to sit in aero, that was all tore up. So that was pretty painful. The right side of my body was in a bit of pain. It wasn't like horrible or anything, so I didn't have to stop, but I was just trying to get to the run just to try to execute that run plan. Okay. So yeah, on that back end, it was just kind of all about eating all the rest of the food and trying to set myself up for a good run.
Okay. Now, whenever you get to the stick of the bike ride coming back into town, what was your emotions like for this right here?
It was pretty good. I was trying to just follow my plan that my coach had given me because it's very easy to try to just get through it as quickly as possible, and you can really burn yourself out on some of those rollers coming back into town. So I just stuck to the plan, executed the 140 watts, even though I was being passed by people that I knew shouldn't be passing me, but I just tried to focus on my race. I'm just here to do what I can do. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing around me.
Right. Now, knowing that this course has a lot of hills on it, how did you want to attack the hills, especially the Three Sisters here?
I did not want to attack them. So I just literally stuck with the 140 watts the whole time. So I'm spinning on the way up the hills, but I am bombing every single downhill I can get my hands on. And I was taking some pretty big risks with some of the huge technical portions of the race, trying to keep up to 140 watts. But I definitely think it paid off in the long run, minus the crash.
Right.
That was my own fault.
Now, whenever you get to miles 105, 110, are you doing anything to start preparing for the run other than eating all of your nutrition?
Nope, just eating all the nutrition, focusing on finishing the bike up, and then I take it very one step at a time, the whole race. So, yeah, just excited to get to T2.
Okay. Now, you have to go up the helix to actually put your bike in transition, basically, before they take it to you. How was this helix for you going back up?
Going back up wasn't too bad. My legs were pretty fatigued, of course, from biking all those hills. But I was able to kind of spin up the helix, and thank God there was a volunteer that was open so I could bike right into her and let her deal with letting me get off.
Gosh. Now, whenever you hand your bike off, what is T2 like? Because it's a little bit different than most races, right?
Yeah, so T2 for this, you have to get off your bike, and I was so embarrassing. Again, my hamstring cramped up, and I fell flat on my face in front of everybody. Got a huge gasp from the crowd.
Oh my
and then
gosh.
I was so embarrassing. And then they clapped as I ran away. I was like, oh my gosh, of course I have to do this. But this one, you run in, you grab your run bag as you are going through the run transition area into the changing room. Basically what I do is I dump all my run stuff out, take all my bike stuff off, kind of just throw it at a volunteer, put my run shoes on, grab all my other stuff, my visor, my watch, my race belt, and I just take off. So I use snap fit laces to just offer a very quick transition into my run shoes. And then everything else that I need to put on, I just put on as I'm running out the door.
Wow, so you're just taking as much time as you can.
Yeah, and I did it in a minute 42 or something like that. Just cruising.
That's crazy now. So whenever you think of the first few miles of the run, what does this look like from your point of view for the first mile or two?
So for me, the plan that my coach and I had discussed was the first 3 miles I had to promise I would not go any faster than a 9:15 mile. And he made me swear it like 3 different times. So I tried very hard not to go any faster than a 9:15 mile. I ended up averaging 9:14, but he was okay with that. So I break up the run into sections. So like the first 3 miles, I'm doing this pace. And then up until mile 10, I'm doing like I can drop it to like 9:15, 9:30. I can drop it down to 9 minutes if I need to, or if I feel like I can. And then I kind of repeat that until like mile 22. And then after 22 miles, I can just go as fast as I want to. I can take the reins off. Unfortunately, I slowed down to like 9:45, and averaging that was as good as I could give that day.
Okay. Now, whenever you get to the first 5 miles, get those under your belt, how are you feeling at this point?
I was just so excited to be there. The fans, spectators, volunteers are just so encouraging and inspiring. And I just love how many like children and like little girls are out there to see all these women in triathlon. So hopefully they're like the next wave and the next generation of women in triathlon. So I try to do what I can to make sure that they think that this is a fun experience. So I'm giving high fives. I'm interacting with the crowds. I know it's a race, but it's also an experience and a full day experience. So I try to make sure that I'm just soaking it all up.
Okay. Now, I know that you will place 7th overall, but at the time, were you wanting to kind of go after a faster time to get on the podium here, or were you just wanting to do the best you could on the day?
I mean, of course I wanted to get on the podium. Who doesn't? But all I can do is bring my best to the day and give my best on that day. And as long as I leave everything on the course, then I'm satisfied. I, of course, would have loved to have gotten on the podium. I would love to be able to qualify for Kona. It wasn't in the cards this year, but a lot of this year was about just kind of learning and seeing if I could even mix it up with those top girls. Did I have that kind of potential and that athletic ability? And I definitely proved to myself and to my coach as well that I do have that capability. So we'll go after it again next year.
Wow. Now, whenever you get to miles 10 through 14, 15, how are you feeling at this point? Knowing that you wrecked on the bike and it's been probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours since then at least, how are you feeling physically and mentally?
Mentally feeling awesome, excited to be there, excited to see my friends that were out on the course, all my friends that were spectating, my family that was spectating. But every single step was so painful because I basically landed with all my weight on my hip and on my rib cage. So every step was pretty brutal, but just the fact that I was able to crash the way I did at the speed I was going and not rip my kit, which would have been devastating because it was so adorable. But I was still able to run and I was still able to bike. So I was going to just ride it till the wheels popped off.
Wow.
But go ahead.
I was just going to ask, how much time do you think you lost on the bike ride due to the crash?
I definitely lost 35 minutes because that's how long it took me to get back onto the bike. But I probably lost a little bit more time because I was not biking as hard as I probably should have been. And I wasn't able to hold the run pace that I necessarily wanted to. Like I still executed the plan perfectly, but I wanted to run a little bit faster. And I think I trained to be able to, but with every step, it was just excruciating. So definitely lost over 35 minutes for sure.
Wow. Now, what were you going to say?
Also like going along with like the spectators and stuff and how I was feeling mentally, throughout the race, especially towards the end of the run, or the middle of the run. I had discussed with my support crew where they were going to be, like what miles I was going to see them. So I was able to have that to look forward to. So I didn't have to be like, oh, I've got so many miles until the end of the race. I'm like, okay, I have a mile until I see them again. I'm another 3 miles after that. So I was able to always have something to look forward to.
Right. For your special needs on the run, did you have anything in there?
I had put some goos in the special needs bag, but I didn't take any. I did the first 13 miles taking water and Gatorade at every single aid station. So start with water, finish with Gatorade. And then the second 13 miles, I did the same thing, but instead of Gatorade, I was taking in Coke. So just rode that Coke train right to the end.
Nice. So on your watch that you're using for the run, what data screens do you look at?
I only look at time and average pace. Like in the instantaneous pace, I should say. So that's it.
Okay. I mean, it's pretty simple. You're not really looking at much.
Nope. Not much to do out there except run.
Right. Now, I know there's Observatory Hill, right?
Yes.
So how was your experience tackling this not once but twice?
So at the bottom of the hill, after you get over it and you get down to the bottom, that's where my spectator crew was. My whole support crew was there. So I just had to get over that hill to see them. So I just took it in little tiny short steps, which for me isn't hard because my feet are the size of an elf's feet. So just little feet all the way up the hill and then just open her up on the way down and get to my family as soon as possible.
Wow. Now, did you see anything funny out on the run course or anybody that was dressed up a particular way that threw you a curveball that kind of made you chuckle?
Well, not necessarily the run course, but definitely the bike course.
Really?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's like some crazy outfits out there. And there was that creepy clown out there again.
What?
Yeah. You don't know about the clown?
I don't.
Oh my gosh. It's like in a very remote part of the lollipop. He so back in 2015, he like popped out of the ditch with his balloon, freaked me out so much. I hit my aero bars because I was eating at the time and ended up like flying across traffic into the ditch, managed to crawl my way out without falling. But this year he had like a sign. So like you knew there was a clown coming, thankfully. So I didn't like fly off the course again. But yeah.
That
So there's a creepy.
interesting. I mean, honestly, from a liability standpoint, who's liable if you wreck?
I think the athlete is like, at the end of the day, you have to take care of yourself. But yeah, it's so creepy. I don't like clowns though, so maybe other people enjoy him, but I do not. But yeah, on the hills, there was some pretty crazy outfits. Gosh, I can't even remember anything in particular. Oh, I had a firefighter who dressed up all in pink, like he had a pink uniform on. And he was like running with me up the hill and just yelling at me that I'm fit and I won't quit. Like, thank you. You look really tired though. Do you want to take a break? So it's just full of really awesome people. On the run course, I don't think I saw anything too crazy. I got to see a lot of the professional women out there. That was really cool.
Nice.
Do
you follow any professional women?
Well, all of them, especially Lindsay Corbin. I was so happy for her. That was so exciting that she won. It was so cool seeing her out there. Other than that, I got to see the base team. I race for base. A super awesome team to race for. They're incredibly supportive. So it was really fun to see them. They took a lot of pictures. They were running with me, taking selfies of us together. So that was really cool. And they always play really awesome music, so you know when you're about to see them. And it was just super enjoyable to be out there. Nothing too crazy, though.
Okay. Now, miles 18 to 22, were these miles harder for you mentally? Or were you doing okay during these miles? Did you have any dark places?
I managed to not dip into any of the dark places. I know usually, like, I was expecting for them to come. I was expecting the wheels to fall off at this point, and I was prepared mentally for it. Fortunately, I was able to hold everything together. I didn't lose anything cognitively. I didn't have any issues that way. I was able to keep a positive attitude. Like, yes, I'm hurting. Yes, this really sucks, but I'm doing it. I'm here, and I'm able to race, and I'm really doing this for everyone who can't. Because I had a really good friend that was supposed to be racing this race. She wanted to, but she ended up having to get hip surgery.
Really?
And yeah, so she's going through her recovery process right now. So I was like, this is for all those who can't do this, but want to. Physically cannot do this, but want to. Wow.
That's a pretty good emotional tie to someone that you know. Is that kind of like why you do this in the first place?
Well, I do this for me, first of all. I mean, you have to do it for yourself. Otherwise, that's a lot of long hours to do for somebody else. But I know what it's like not to be able to do what you're passionate about. So I just try to enjoy every single moment, no matter how excruciating it is, or how much I'm bleeding, or sweating, or crying, or losing my dignity because you're peeing in the ditch or something like that. So just enjoy every second of it.
Wow. So, Miles, 22, whenever you can take the reins off, how was this feeling passing that 22-mile mark where you can finally do what you want to do?
Oh, I was so excited. I was like, yes, the rain's going to come off. And I started running as hard as I could, and I was feeling like I was so fast. And then I looked down at my watch, and I was going like 9:42. I was like, shoot, I thought I was going so much faster. But I was like, fine, whatever, I'll take whatever I can get. And I just kept trying to push it harder and harder right up until the end, until I got to that finish line chute. And I was just like, yes, like, finally, like, I'm going to have that finish line feeling. I did this again. I'm going to be an Ironman a third time around. And I executed the best race I possibly could, even with the crash. So I was just ecstatic to get to those last miles.
Wow. Now, whenever you start getting to the actual last mile of the race, you can make that turn to go through the finish line or keep straight to go to the second loop. How was that feeling whenever you took that turn to the finish line?
When I took the turn to the finish line, oh my gosh, you get that finish line feeling. It's so hard to explain unless you've done it, but it's just like the ultimate euphoria. I guess is the only way I can describe it. Like, all that sacrifice throughout the year, all the hard work you've put into it, everything your family has sacrificed for you to be able to do this. Like, it's all worth it for that last 200 yards into the chute. And I'm just high-fiving everyone, excited to be there, trying to find my family so I can make sure they get a good picture of me, and then head on into the chute.
Wow. So what was this finish line experience like for you, being that this is your third time doing one?
Oh, it's always very emotional because there's so much that goes into that one day, and honestly, like, that one moment to be able to cross that finish line. So having Mike Riley say, Emma, you are an Ironman, is just like, that's the statement that like drives you throughout the whole year. And then it's finally happening. So I was just absolutely ecstatic. I was so excited to be there, so excited to be able to put together the race I put together, and really just, I've laid everything out there, and there's nothing else I could possibly have done besides stay on my bike the correct way the entire time.
Wow. So after you crossed the finish line, what did you get to do next?
Oh my gosh, I went to the food tent, and I made them give me an empty box. And I filled up that box with all of the food I could get my hands on there. So, and that's what I did.
Wow. So, what's something that you learned about this race that you'd like to pass on to someone who hasn't done this race before?
Oh my gosh, to somebody who hasn't done this race before, you have to do it. It's so fun. It's the thing about Ironman that I absolutely love, and triathlon in general, is that you find out things about yourself you didn't even know existed. You are able to see what you're made of, and you're able to prove to yourself that you're made of a lot tougher stuff than you would have thought. So it forces you to be disciplined. It forces you to be able to pick yourself up by your bootstraps, shake yourself off when things go wrong, and really be able to tackle anything that comes at you in life. And so Ironman training and racing really sets you up to be able to handle anything that comes at you. You can extrapolate that to any part of your life, and you know you will endure because you did Ironman. You didn't die. The human body's not meant to do this, and you did it. So I think Madison and Ironman Wisconsin is such a great venue for it because there's so much support, and the volunteers are just the best volunteers ever. They treat you really well. They make sure that you get what you need. If you missed a cup on the run at a run aid station, they're running with you to make sure that you get it. If you miss it at a bike aid station, they're running with you to make sure you get it. And they just make sure that every athlete is taken care of and treated like a rock star. So for a day, you are the most important there, you and 2,500 other people, but it's a super fun race. I have done one other Ironman on the circuit, which was an absolutely phenomenal race, but I don't think there's anything out there like Madison.
Wow. I mean, it seems like you actually relate your journey through Ironman to your day-to-day life and use that to be a better person.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And the triathlon community itself kind of helps you along that journey, if you will. But you really kind of figure out that no matter what you're going through, like, it'll pass. It's not going to be there forever. You might be going through it for 12 hours. You might be going through it for months at a time, but it's not going to be there forever.
That makes sense. And that's how, I mean, I've dealt with a lot of interesting things in my life, so to speak. And I had to kind of relate to that same thing that you just said, that it's not going to last forever.
Yeah.
Now, if you could change anything about your race experience before you started your race, what would you change?
Before starting the race?
Yes.
Absolutely nothing. I did everything the way I was planning to do it. My training, I wouldn't change anything. A lot of the stuff my coach has me doing when we get started with it, I have no idea why we're doing this. I don't understand it at all, but I just kind of trust him in the process. And just his training speaks for itself. The results are there for all of his athletes. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, to kind of wrap things up a little bit, on a scale of 1 to 10 for you, how logistically complicated was this race for you?
Logistically complicated? Probably like a 5, I guess. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, from your nutrition to your plan of how you're going to execute. But the way I approach the races with just taking one thing at a time, I keep myself from getting stressed out too much from everything that's going on.
Right. Now, for first-timers that are doing this race next year, being that you've done this race multiple times, what advice would you want to give them doing this race next year?
For athletes doing it next year?
Yeah.
I would have to say, oh gosh, what would I say? I would say definitely go after whatever your dream is. If your dream is to do Ironman, do it. Don't let anybody stop you. Don't let anybody tell you it's a dumb idea or you can't do this, because if you have the will, you'll make sure you find a way to get it done. If you don't want to do it, you'll find an excuse. But as long as you follow the training and you trust the process, then you're definitely going to be able to do it. It is going to take everything you've got, but you've got everything it takes to do it.
Wow.
Just make sure you do open water swimming.
Yes.
Don't let Ironman be the first time you figure it out.
So you obviously got an athlete wristband on race day.
Oh, I lost you there.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, okay.
Okay. I said you obviously got an athlete wristband on
Oh,
race
shoot,
day.
I lost you again.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
No?
Hi, yep, I'm here.
Okay, can you hear me?
No, I'm not.
No, I'm not.
I'm here, I'm trying to find... I'm, like, losing service, sorry.
Okay, no big deal. It's been good for a while. All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, I'm back by huge windows. Okay, I'm good.
So you obviously got an athlete wristband to be an athlete on race day. Did you cut that off?
Fortunately, my hand was small enough that I didn't have to cut it off. I could slide it off so I didn't ruin it. So I could put it back on if I wanted to.
Wow.
But I did have a really nice sweater I wanted to wear, and I didn't want it to get snagged. So I did slide it off.
Ah, nice. Well, to kind of wrap everything up with the episode here, what's next for you? I know you're going to Kona with Joe.
Sorry, can you say that one more time?
I said, what's next for you? I know you're going to Kona with Joe here in a few weeks.
Oh, what's next? We're going to Hawaii so that Joe can race at Kona World Championships. Other than that, I just had to figure out what's on deck for next year. I haven't really even thought about it yet. Definitely want to go long distance. Maybe Whistler, maybe Ireland, Germany.
Wow.
Definitely want to travel with this. So
that's pretty cool. So
yeah, that's what I think is coming up next.
Okay, so what races are on your bucket list?
What races? I'm losing you again. Maybe if I go outside. You're going to want to edit all of this out. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, okay.
So what races are on your bucket list?
So you were saying what races?
Yeah, what races are on your bucket list?
On my bucket list, obviously Kona. I think every endurance triathlete wants to go to Kona. It's the birthplace of Ironman. I would love to go and race in Germany. I definitely want to race in Ireland because their scones are to die for. So I definitely want to go back there. And Whistler, because I've got family out in British Columbia that my great aunt lives out there, and she was actually the one that got me into Ironman. So I would love to be able to go race in a place where she could come and see me.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. So how can athletes follow you?
So athletes can follow me by either following my Instagram at Emma, EMMA Getty, Getty, or by following the blog that my husband and I do together, triad.tryadrians.com.
Nice. Well, Emma, it's been really great having you on the show, and I've enjoyed hearing so much about your race. It's been amazing hearing your story and your recovery process. I've enjoyed it. And to wrap up the episode, I always ask this for everybody, and it's, what's your definition of a perfect race?
My definition of a perfect race is being able to go out there, leave your heart and soul out on the race course. You've done everything you possibly could at that race, either whether that's executing it exactly as you plan to or being able to overcome any obstacles that came your way. But as long as you're able to leave everything out on the course, that's what I consider a perfect race.
Wow. How do you have a way of measuring this?
As long as I don't break down crying on the race course and get pulled off, that's how I would measure it.
Okay. Well, Emma, it's been really awesome hearing so much from you, and I've enjoyed it. And I really look forward to following Joe at Kona this year, and I would love to have y'all back on next year in the future for sure. And I'm pretty sure Joe's going to come back on after Kona.
Oh, good.
Well, thank you so much. I've enjoyed it, and I look forward to following you in the future, okay?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good day, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you were able to learn something from today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to leave a review on iTunes or share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to see pictures from this athlete's race, learn more about who I am, what I'm doing, or be on the show yourself to share your story, check out my website at CoachTerryWilson.com. Until next time, continue the pursuit.